You're wrong, Karen. I'm FBI. Step back now. No! This can't be! You lied!
Ma'am, stand down. This ends here.
You know, it all started on this sweltering summer afternoon in Harbor Point, that fancy little enclave down in Charleston, South Carolina, where the old money homes hug the harbor like they're afraid the water might wash away their secrets. I pulled up in our SUV, kids bouncing in the back, wife unpacking groceries we'd grabbed on the way, and right off the bat, this neighbor lady across the street, Karen Whitaker, she's standing there on her perfect lawn, arms folded tight like she's guarding the gates of heaven itself, staring us down like we just crashed her private party. Folks like you don't fit in a place like this, she says, not yelling but with that sharp edge, the kind that slices without raising a voice. Her eyes narrowing as if our very presence was some kind of threat to her precious property values and man. That hit me deep, because I've spent my whole career fighting exactly this kind of crap, but there I was, Dr. Marcus Thompson, senior FBI agent in the Civil Rights Division, on what was supposed to be a relaxing family vacation, biting my tongue to let the story unfold. My wife, Dr. Elena Thompson, she's a trauma surgeon at the Children's Hospital back home, glances over at me with that knowing look, the one that says, handle it, but don't escalate, while our twins, Lily and Ava, 12 years old and full of that innocent energy, they're already halfway to the door of our rental, this gorgeous Victorian with porches overlooking the water, the kind of spot we'd saved up for to make memories. Not drama, but Karen's words hung there, heavy like the humidity, and I could feel that old familiar knot in my gut, the one from years of cases where good people get targeted just for existing in the wrong skin. We'd chosen Harbor Point because it was close to the historic sites, the beaches, a break from our hectic lives. Elena's pulling double shifts, saving kids' lives. Me buried in investigations that keep me up nights, piecing together patterns of bias that run deeper than most folks want to admit. And the girls. Lily with her passion for history books, always asking why things are the way they are, and Ava glued to her gadgets, filming everything like a little documentary maker. They deserved this week of normalcy, barbecues and boat rides, not some HOA queen turning it into a battlefield. But Karen, oh, she was something else. A 50-something, president of the Homeowners Association for what, 8 years now? Worked as a realtor peddling these million-dollar spots, always talking about maintaining standards. But we all know what that code means when it's aimed at a black family pulling up in a nice ride. Lost her husband a few years back in some messy divorce. Left her bitter about anyone who seemed to have it together. And from what I'd later learn, she'd been manipulating the HOA to keep certain types out, driving down offers from diverse buyers to protect her commission turf, her little empire of exclusion. That first day, as we're unloading bags, she marches back inside, phone already in hand, and I snap a quick photo time-stamped. Notes on her exact words because old habits die hard. And in my line of work, documentation isn't just paperwork, it's armor, especially when you're up against someone who thinks the system is their personal weapon. Elena notices right away, her surgeon's eye picking up on the tension. She's watching us like we're suspects. She whispers later that night as the girls splash in the pool out back, and I nod, feeling that pull between wanting to shield my family and needing to see how far this goes. Because if I flash my badge too soon, poof, the pattern vanishes, and another family without my resources gets hit next time. The girls sense it too. Lily, the thinker, asks why that lady seemed mad, and Ava's already got her phone out. Should I record if she comes over? Smart kids, raised on those tough talks about staying visible, staying calm, because truth is our best defense in a world quick to assume the worst. Karen's game ramps up quick. Day 2. She's out there casually chatting with neighbors, pointing at our house, taking notes like she's building a dossier, and I overhear her on the phone with the property manager. You sure about these renters? They look off. You know, not the usual crowd, her voice dripping with that faux concern, the kind that masks pure prejudice, rooted in her fear that families like ours might change the vibe, lower her property empire's worth, or worse, remind her of her own insecurities after that divorce left her scrambling to hold on to status. By day 3, it's personal. She corners us at the mailbox as we're heading back from a morning at the old fort downtown. Kids excited about the history lessons, and she demands, "Show me your papers. Prove you're supposed to be here." Her tone all authority, like she's the sheriff of suburbia, and I keep it cool. Ma'am, we're legit renters, happy to point you to the management if needed, but inside, I'm cataloging every word, every gesture, the way her lip curls, the assumption that we must be faking it, because how could we afford this without something shady? Elena steps in front of the girls protectively, her voice steady but sharp. We're on vacation, minding our business, yours should be too. And Karen snaps back. This is my neighborhood. I have rights. And you people, well, you know what I mean. The words hanging like a noose. That coded racism she's too cowardly to say outright. Driven by her HOA power trips, where she's blocked black families before, whispering to buyers about declining values to steer them away, all to keep her real estate game pure and profitable. The girls freeze, Lily clutching my hand, Ava discreetly hitting record, and it's moments like that where my heart aches, wondering if I'm doing right by letting it build, but I know from cases past, premature reveal just lets folks like her slink away unchanged. Things escalate fast. Day 4, she's filing complaints with the HOA about our noise, which is just the girls laughing while shooting hoops in the driveway. Mid-afternoon fun that any kid deserves, but to Karen, it's disruption, a threat to her quiet control, her logs timing every bounce like evidence of a crime spree. She calls a neighbor meeting that night in her living room, expecting backup folks like old Mr. Harold Jenkins, who's lonely and nods along to anything for company, or Mrs. Susan Lee, who's new and doesn't want waves, but Tom Rivera, the guy next door, pushes back. Karen, they're just a family on Valkyrie, kids playing chill out. And she hisses, you don't get it, Tom. Once we let in short-termers like them, property values tank, and who knows what they're really up to. Her paranoia spiking because, deep down, it's not about noise, it's jealousy, seeing our togetherness when her life's fallen apart, her ex taking half her assets, leaving her clinging to this role as gatekeeper. Elena and I talk late that night, her head on my shoulder. You're treating this like one of your cases, aren't you? And I admit it. Yeah. Because it is a textbook bias pattern unfolding, and I'm building the file. Photos, timestamps, witness notes, even snagging copies of her social media rants in the neighborhood group, where she posts about suspicious comings and goings, twisting our tourist outings into some criminal plot. Day 5 brings the cops, 2 cruisers pulling up as we're back from the beach, sand still on our shoes, and Karen's watching from her window, smug as hell, having called in possible illegal activity, claiming our barbecues smell like drugs or something absurd. Officers Daniels and Ruiz approach, professional but wary. Got a report of suspicious behavior, mind showing ID and rental docs? And I comply, hands visible, voice even, instructing the family to stay calm, because I've seen how these calls can turn south quick for folks like us. They check everything, find zilch, apologize for the bother, but Karen storms over, demanding, did you search the house? What if they're dealing? Normal people don't act so. Composed, her voice cracking with frustration as her plan flops, and Daniels shuts her down. Ma'am, they're clear, back off. But she's fuming, her ego bruised because the system she thought was hers isn't bending, fueling her deeper dive into delusion, calling the rental company next, ranting about gang ties, based on nothing but our skin and success. By day 6, she's gone nuclear, phoning the local FBI tip line, alleging terrorist surveillance, because Ava's filming the harbor views, her twisted mind seeing threats where there's just family photos, all stemming from her unresolved bitterness, that divorce where her ex accused her of controlling everything, mirroring how she's trying to control us now. We return from a civil rights museum tour, ironic, right? To find 3 cop cars, Sergeant Lopez in charge, and this time, I know it's the tipping point, her escalation's crossing into federal territory. I approach Lopez quietly, Sergeant, a word in private, and pull out my credentials, the FBI shield catching the light. Special Agent Marcus Thompson, Civil Rights Division. He'd been documenting a harassment campaign here. And his face drops, eyes widening as the pieces click, realizing he's been played into her game. Karen marches up, triumphant. Arrest them already, I saw a handoff. Drugs for sure. But Lopez stops her cold. Mrs. Whitaker, stand back, this man's a federal agent, and you've been targeting him and his family. And oh, the look on her face, that smug mask shattering like glass, her knees buckling as denial floods in. No, that's impossible. He should have said, you're wrong, stammering excuses, But it's too late, her whole web unraveling in broad daylight. The shift hits like a storm clearing. Lopez calls in Lieutenant Garcia. Internal Affairs rolls up, and I lay out the evidence. The logs, recordings, her false reports stacking up like dominoes, each one a civil rights violation waiting to happen. And as they review body cam footage of her previous demands, search them. They're hiding something, her aggression laid bare. Garcia turns to her. You've wasted resources, endangered lives with these lies. And Karen crumbles, protesting. How was I to know? If he'd just identified himself. But I counter calmly. Citizens don't owe you badges. Karen, you owe respect. Period. And there's this moment, almost funny in its irony, her empire of whispers crumbling under the weight of her own words. The neighborhood watches Tom Rivera stepping out, shaking his head, later apologizing. I should have called her out sooner. Man, fear of rocking the boat, you know? And old Harold, who'd nodded along before, now mumbling regrets, revealing how Karen's manipulated HOA votes for years, blocking diverse renters to keep commissions flowing, her personal vendettas dressed as community protection. Consequences come swift. Karen's booted from the HOA that night. Unanimous vote. Her real estate license suspended after the state board digs into past complaints from minority clients she'd steered away with warnings about the area. Officers Daniels and Ruiz get sidelined for bias training, the department rolling out new protocols, mandatory reviews for repeat callers, community liaisons to spot harassment early, turning our nightmare into reforms that shield others. Elena and the girls finally breathe easy, the twins processing it all. Lily writing an essay on standing up to bullies that wins a school prize. Ava editing her footage into a little vid about resilience, and we even get invites to neighborhood barbecues. Tom hosting one where kids play freely. No stares, just laughter echoing over the harbor. A satisfying flip from exclusion to embrace. The sun setting on that Victorian porch as we toast to justice served. Not with vengeance, but with change. But here's where it gets tricky. Leaves you thinking, was Karen just a lone wolf? Or does every community have one, simmering under the surface, waiting for the right spark? Did we change Harbor Point for good? Or will the next family face a subtler version, whispers instead of calls? And me, holding back that badge-right call for the bigger picture, or risk to my own kids' safety? Man, it keeps me up sometimes, wondering if patience always wins. Or if sometimes you gotta swing first. What about you? Ever dealt with a Karen in your neighborhood, or seen bias play out like this? Drop a comment. Share your story. Was she wrong from the start, or could understanding her baggage have stopped it? Hit like if you think accountability beats silence. Subscribe for more real talk tales. And let's chat about making communities fairer, one story at a time.